say to me in Bowers Game Corner.
Hey there, YouTube. I'm back again for another How to Play video, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Mad Gab from Mattel. This is for 2 to 12 players, ages 10 plus, take about 45 minutes to play. And the first thing I want to mention is I will teach you how to play the 2 and 3 player version of the game at the end, but this is going to be for all the other player counts. So the first thing you're going to want to do is break up into 2 different teams. They don't have to be completely even, but try and keep them relatively even. Next, you're going to randomly decide which team is going first, and they will be Team 1, while the other team will be Team 2. And now that we have our Team 1, who is the first team to take their turn, is going to select 2 people. 1 to be what's called the coach, and 1 to be what's called the guesser. Now, an alternate rule you can play with the guesser is that you can have everybody guess, but the makers of the game recommend having only 1 guesser at a time, but that's up to you. Now, the only thing the guesser has to do is sit there, make sure they can see the coach up close, and get ready for the round. But what the coach is going to do is they're going to reach into this box right here and draw from the draw side, and they're going to grab a card and then load it into this little plastic thing right here. Now, the key for the coach when loading it is to make sure you don't look at the other side of the card that your team is going to be using. Now, how you decide this is if you're playing the easy version of the game or the hard version of the game. The hard version of the game is the orange side, whereas the easy version of the game is the blue side. So right now, since the coach is looking at the orange side, that means that we are playing the easy version of the game because guessers will always be looking at the easy side of the card. Now, one thing I have not mentioned is the coach is supposed to load these secretly to the side like this, place it face down, and then flip it over like this so that the guesser can see it. No one should see the front of the cards until they get revealed. But, however, now, Team 1 is ready. So Team 2 is not completely dormant, though. They're also going to choose 2 people to do something. First, they're going to choose someone to be the stealer. And the thing with the stealer is they want to make sure that they will not be able to see the cards when they get flipped over. That is essential. They're going to be listening, but they cannot actually see and read these cards right here. And the other role that Team 2 needs to fill in right now is what's called the scorekeeper. This is the person who's going to mark down how many points Team 1 gets, but more importantly, be the ones to say go and then hit this timer right here when the round is ready to start, and then hit it again when the round is over. But now we're ready to rock and roll, so let's show you what an actual round would look like. So the first thing is the scorekeeper is going to say, ready, set, go. They're going to flip this at the same time that the coach flips these cards up. Now, I'm going to turn this off right now because it's kind of loud and kind of annoying, but it would be making the sound. And this is important because your team can score bonus points when it's your turn, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So now what's going to happen is the guesser is going to be looking at the first card revealed, which this says, Dawn Beak Rule. So the guesser is going to be trying to say this with different inflections and at different speeds to try and figure out what phrase is on the back of the card. So in this case, it's don't be cruel. So Dawn be cruel. But now let's talk about what the coach can and can't do. The coach cannot look at the puzzle clue. They can never look at the front of this card, but they may give clues on which words to emphasize in order to get the answer. You can tell your guesser to emphasize certain syllables or say the puzzle faster or slower, different things like that. Once the guesser finally gets one right, you take the card, place it face down, which then reveals the next card that the guesser is going to try and get. All the while, this timer is going to be keeping to go. What your team is trying to do is try to get all of the cards face down, meaning the guesser has guessed all 3 of them correctly. When this happens, you yell stop, and the timekeeper makes sure that it stops. And then the team will score points equal to how many cards they have, plus where they are on this tracker. So right now they would be getting 1, 2, 3, plus 3, 6 points, because as you can see, this is still in the 3 area. And if it ever gets to a situation where it's halfway here and halfway there, the team gets the higher number. So that's what happens in a perfect world, but let's set it up and show you some other examples of what can happen. So let's rewind a little bit, place all these back in here, and let's say that the guesser gets this one correct, so we place it over here, and then this one is way too hard, and you're just like, I don't think they're going to get it. And the coach, at any point, can make the decision to take this, put it sideways like so, and say, you know what, we're just going to skip that one. Now, when you do this, that means you will not get that point. That also means that you will get no bonus points because you only get bonus points if you complete all 3 cards. Also, you can't go back to it. Even if you have time left over, you cannot go back to that card. So let's say that the guesser does get this one correct. Well, that means that Team 1 would be getting 2 points. And now that brings into play our old friend, the stealer, because as you remember, the other team designated someone to be a stealer. So now they have the opportunity to try and guess what the phrase is. But they don't get to look at it. They had to just be listening to what the guesser was guessing. And if they do get it correct, then their team would gain that point. If not, then their team would not gain the point. So to make this clear, in this particular scenario, Team 1 would get 2 points for this, and if the guesser got this correct, Team 2 would get 1 point. You'll know a round is over when either the third card has been removed from the tray or you hear that sound. One more example I want to show you is, let's pretend that the guesser had gotten this one correct, they had passed on this one, and then time ran out on this one. That would mean that Team 1 would get 1 point, and the guesser would get 1 opportunity each to guess these 2 cards, and if they do, they could score up to 2 points, and if they only got 1 of them, they would score 1 point. And the points are how you're going to win the game, because the first team to get to 30 points will win the game. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put all the cards back into the box in the discard side, facing the same way that they already are, to keep it nice and neat and organized, and then you're going to switch. So Team 2 would now have their turn, and they would have 1 guesser and 1 coach, while Team 1 had the timekeeper, who would reset back up the timer, take the score pad, and Team 1 would also designate a guesser. And you're going to keep going back and forth until someone reaches 30 points, at which point they have won the game. Now, in the event of a tie, here's how it works. The teams are going to choose 1 player from each team to sit out the final round. These players are going to choose the final puzzle and then load that card into the flipper like so. It will then be tilted up to everyone else playing the game, and the first team to get it correctly wins the game. Well, that's how you're going to play Mad Gab. But now let's talk about the 2- and 3-player version of the game. Now, if you're playing a 3-player version of the game, every single round you're going to take turns playing one of the 3 roles, which will be 1 player being a coach, 1 player being the guesser, and 1 player being the stealer. And you just take turns switching roles until someone reaches a certain number of points, which you'll decide on at the beginning of the game. In the 2-player version of the game, there is no coaching at all. 1 player is going to load 3 cards and then flip them over, and the other player is going to have a certain amount of time to try and guess those cards, like the normal game. And they get as many points as cards they get. And then they just flip roles, so now the person that was guessing is the one who's loading the cards. Decide at the beginning of the game how many rounds you want to play. But that's how you're going to play Mad Gab from Mattel. If this helped you out, please consider giving this video a like. Also, if you enjoy learning new games, please consider giving this channel a subscribe. Go have some fun, and thanks for your time, YouTube.